and we'll hit record. Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, and I'm reporting live from my little cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law. And we're here tonight with our International Book of the Month author, Lara Bernhardt. She hails from Oklahoma, and she's maybe I've had one other, but I picked two books for the International Book of the Month. The first book I picked, we discussed last week, which was Shadow of the Taj by Lara, and it's set in India. And now her new book, Red Rain by Lara Bernhardt. And she's going to be having a third book coming out. But right now, welcome, Lara.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm glad you have a copy of my book because I went to grab one and I'm completely out.
Oh,
So.
wow. I not only have a copy of your book, I think you even signed it. I was
Probably.
So
sounds like something I would do.
Are you the one that gave me the little cat bookmark?
Yes. Yep.
Love it. I love it. I was going back and rereading the book. And it's a neat one because it doesn't stick out and you can still find your place. That's really precious. You guys always have such great ideas. And we have Valerie Neiman here with us tonight, and she's another author, and hopefully we'll have some more jumping on board. But it's right after Mother's Day, who knows, but it is being taped, and I record these and put them up on the Pulpit Queen YouTube channel, and you can share that. If you need me to send you the link, if you want to put it up on your website, I will do that. And I just want as many people as possible to watch it. You did the Beaufort chapter right before this, right?
Yes, I did.
Talk about that. This is Beaufort, South Carolina. Was it at the Pat Conroy Center or at a home?
They were in a room somewhere. They were gathered. It might have been at the center, and then we had a couple people join by Zoom. Great group of people. Really, really enjoyed it.
Janet McCauley was here last week with us, joined us when you were on last time. And she told me you were going to meet right before. And I said, well, I won't be rushed into starting right away because I want her to do your book club. But that's wonderful. We encourage all the Pulpwood Queen chapters, Timber Guide chapters, to reach out to the authors if possible. It's around their schedule to schedule meeting with the book club. But if you cannot get a hold of them, you can always join our Tuesday night book club because I feature them each week. So thank you for coming back, Laura. I know you're busy and you're being slammed at work, and it's the end of the school year, and it's okay. You just breathe. You just graduated, got your master's in English, and I'm so proud of you for that accomplishment because I really am thinking about going back to school. I am.
I don't regret it, although I'm ready for a break. I'm glad that it's finished for now.
I graduated in 2017, so I've taken quite a break, but it's okay. Yeah. Does Oklahoma have the same policy that once you turn 65, state universities are free?
I'm going to say no, because I've never heard that. So I don't think so.
Texas.
That's
if you go
nice.
back to school after 65, you still have to pay the fees and books, but you can go back for free. So I'm thinking about it. And since my daughter lives in Denton, I'm looking at the university my son-in-law works for to do some online studies. And then if I have to go up, I can stay with them. And I'm Texas Women's University. And it's a state university. So we're checking into that. So education is the key to staying young. I know
Absolutely.
You're worn out.
You can't go wrong with education.
You've had so many things happen. But for the listening audience that does not know about your two books, Shadow of the Taj and Red Rain, both these books are set in India. You're not from India, but you have traveled and lived there. And so give everybody a little background who may not have listened last week or knows the story about you and your travels to India.
I did. I had the opportunity to stay there. I stayed for a big chunk of time in a university town. It was called Pantnagar, and there was a school there, and we stayed in housing complex. And I modeled the school housing in Red Rain from my memories of that and kind of how it was set up and how that worked. So that came to play in that book. I found India to be just an incredible experience. It's so much, like it's just so rich and complex, and it's vivid, and it just hits you everywhere. The spices are extreme, and the history is long and incredible, and just everything about it was just so much, almost hard to take it all in while you're there. But then I also found that I was learning about some things that I certainly hadn't heard about here. And those things stuck with me. And so when I started writing, a lot of these things were still kind of turning around inside of me, things that happen to children and women elsewhere, and how extreme poverty is overseas. I think I probably talked about that more in Shadow of the Taj than Red Rain. But again, economics definitely plays into choices that people make everywhere. So you can't really talk about it without addressing that, because it is these small rural areas. Olivia goes to teach. She's trying to help these children to give them a step up, to help them break out of that cycle. And it's going to be their best bet. That, again, we were just talking about education and how important it is, how vital it is, how it gives you that step up. And that's what she's trying to do. She needs a win. She needs to make a difference. At the beginning of the book, she's hurting so badly and so deeply and is so lost that she just throws herself into the most opposite place and that she can imagine, something totally different, just trying to get away from everything. But of course, what's in us goes with us wherever we are. We can't run away from ourselves or what's hurting us. It goes with us. So,
Well, I think hard work helps us get through the hard times. So I always tell people, if life is going, get back to work, do something you're passionate about, because then when you're ready to process it, it's a lot easier. So it sounds like you did that. Now, I know your sister was teaching abroad and helped you some on the research too. And
yes,
she was in India?
that's right. No, she actually taught in South Korea.
South Korea. Okay.
But she did. We had I got to interview her and talk with her. I mean, I talked with her some while she was there, but while I was working on writing this, I approached her a few times with some questions and had her describe to me kind of what it was like. And Olivia's first experiences there are definitely inspired by hers. She expected some kind of training, some guidance, maybe a
there was
teacher or
nothing.
something. And she just kind of got tossed in the room, and she talked to me about how she improvised, started engaging the children, just trying to, what worked, what didn't, trying to get going. And it took her a little while to feel steady, but you have to pretend no matter what. And that was in the back of my mind, that was kind of what Olivia was doing with her life in general, was trying to pretend like she had it all together, knew what she was doing, while underneath, her legs were churning as fast as they could to keep from drowning.
Wow. It's a fascinating story. And, I picked years ago, and when I was rereading this, it came back to me. I picked a book by Anita Diamant, who's Jewish, and she wrote a book based on a very minuscule biblical character called Dinah, called The Red Tent. Have you ever read it?
Yes, but it's been a while
Oh,
now. But yes, I'm familiar with that.
well, I remember Oklahoma. I used to call them the Jewish temple in Tulsa and everything. They would buy tons of copies of the Red Tent, and so did the one here in Longview. But it's a story about back in biblical times, they put the women in a red tent when they were on their monthly cycle,
Yes.
and because they were considered unclean and it's just, and I think, well, how far have we come? We've come a long way, but yet I saw a big difference between my children and me
Mhm.
talking about that because we just didn't talk about it. My kids talk about it and they go, it's just a part of life. It's no big deal, Mom. And I'm just like, it's always still a little bit, my mother told me I couldn't go swimming if I was on my period. I mean,
Right.
hilarious to me now because that's just ridiculous. But anyway,
My group of beta readers, that definitely, so I sent from um, a younger crowd on up into older retired women. So I got a wide age range. And I will say the older beta readers came back with that kind of response, that the story was good, but that the subject matter made them very
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
Well, it
And
needs to.
they didn't love it. However, they said that once they kept reading, they did become invested in the story. It made them cringe a little bit that they were reading about that. And one woman told me that it actually, she said she kind of found some healing because she had such bad memories of her own experiences as a young child. And then the younger generation, they had no problem discussing it.
No, none. And even with other young men in the room, it doesn't even bother them. It's so different. But that tends to be the, those kind of concepts tend to be more accepted in cities, but you get in rural areas. And I watched that movie about, I cannot pronounce the Indian man's name who created the machine that made
It's a mouthful.
it's like,
I
I
know.
think about
I have
12
to have it in
syllables.
front of me, and even then I'm certain that I butcher it. But
I watched that movie and I watched that movie about him, the man who did it, and then I watched another guy who did a movie called Padman, which was
yes,
and
that's still on my to watch list.
it was good, but it made me a little uncomfortable, but I know and everybody thought he was kind of a freak because what are you wanting to do that for? And he goes, I just want to make it better for my wife. And the wife's
Oh,
horrified.
it's all for the, yes, he did this for the women he loved. And
Yeah,
I love that. He's delightful. He has just the sweetest disposition, the best
he does.
personality. He's funny. He's absolutely delightful, and he's very self-effacing. He'll tell you that it took a high school dropout to do this.
Yep.
Anybody smarter, anybody who had actually finished education would be smart enough to know not to do it. But he stuck with it, and
It's
I
amazing
just
what he
think he's so
did.
remarkable.
And
And
he's
it'll never hump him.
egoistic.
And even when he had the opportunity to make a lot of money off of it, he
He did.
turned it down because he wanted to ensure that this got to the women who needed it and was helping the women who needed it.
It also gave him income. But his name is in here. And you guys, if you could Google it, you can watch the movie on it. And I think there's a documentary or I watched it on maybe YouTube or Netflix, but it's really good. And another thing that I thought was really interesting is you had in the back of your book, besides acknowledging your sister and everything, you had, you talked about red rain and where that came from and what that meant. When I first read it, I was just thinking it tied in, and then the end of the book. But can you explain a little bit about that phenomenon that happened in India?
Yes, so that didn't happen while I was there. I was back in the States and had been for a while. But the idea for this book was gelling, and I was starting to work on it when I just happened onto this bizarre story about inexplicable red rain that had fallen in the state of Kerala. And I thought for sure that it must be made up, must be some kind of exaggerated something. So I started looking into it, and I was fascinated by it, started researching it, and just kind of kept it in mind. And then, of course, as I was working on this book, it struck me, it's just such a great analogy. So rain and rainstorms in literature, they always mean something, right?
Right.
They're letting you know that there's emotional turmoil, that something is happening. But I was also told in India that rain is actually a very positive, beneficial
It's
thing. Like
very
it's a
positive.
joyous thing. So I use that theme throughout. So when the red rain is crashing down on our, and of course, the red rain is an analogy for um, everyone's attitude towards menstruation. But you'll see throughout the book that attitudes change during these rainstorms. So
The one thing I've noticed about in the Indian books and everything, if it starts raining, there's usually going to be a romantic scene. They said, I actually saw, Shah Rukh Khan explained it one time. He goes, usually you'll see it'll start raining and they'll get all wet and they'll look at each other and then it'll go to flowers, flowers in the rain. And it said, it's just kind of our way. And I actually like that. I would much
yes,
rather watch a film where it's raining and you know that the romance is about to begin than what we see in America. It's just, that's to me is just, it's not necessary. I think our own imaginations are much better, but I loved how you carried that theme throughout the book, even to the last line. I mean, you'll have to read it, everybody,
yep.
but
She goes to India to escape, but instead she finds healing. And I'll go ahead and add, just before that book was about to be published, and I was last second had opportunity to make any changes, I quickly researched again, did one last check before it was released. And as of then, there's no 100% explanation for what was causing that. There are a number of theories out there. People have postulated what they think happened, but for every person who steps up and says, oh, this is what caused the red rain, there's someone else who steps up and says, that can't be it, and here's why. So there's no uncontested explanation for it.
it could be a lot of things, but you talked about spores I honestly saw a National Geographic where they showed, I think this is when this happened, the rivers ran red because
Oh,
it was raining red and the
yes.
rivers were running red. And it reminded me of, the biblical 10 Commandments story. Remember when he stuck the thing into the Nile, and I just thought, oh my, it looks very biblical, but
Yes, you can find video of it where people were catching the rain in bowls and it was staining clothing red. It's weird.
and that's so interesting because part of India's one of their biggest celebration is Holi, which is where they throw the colored powders and
Oh yes.
get wet. And I just thought, isn't that interesting? It's
Mm.
so, but everything about India is fascinating. Now, one of the things in the character of the book, you know, nobody can understand the fascination of why she wants to do this, and go over. And I'm finding people go, what is it with you in India? And I go, well, it's not just India. I've always had a fascination with people that I don't know anything about. I mean, for years and years it was Africa, then Australia, and then England, and then Wales and Ireland. But India, it's gone to another level because the storytelling is fascinating. And Valerie and I were talking about, we can have artificial intelligence make books, but the way the mind works, I just don't think you can ever copy people's imagination, because I'm beginning to think that storytelling is something handed down through our DNA. I really, Jamie Ford's book touched onto that. There's a name for it. I can't pronounce it. But I think storytelling is what makes us human. And so it's really creepy to me to think that artificial intelligence is going to start writing stories, because that's our thing. That's the humankind thing. And us discussing the stories is what's going to happen to the book club. They're just going to do printouts and say, here's a synopsis, like Cliff Notes, and say, here's what the book's about, what we were trying to tell, and study it, or whatever. No conversation with an author. I can't imagine, because to hear your story of your experiences when you went to India, we talked about it a lot on our trip to Southern Festival for the book. But and then you have another book coming up that is you're about third of the way through.
Mhm. Yes, yep.
Please.
I was going to add on to that. It's not just baked into our DNA. I don't think it isn't just that we need it and it's there, but it's also based very much, for me at least, on our experiences. and how we can take those and you know, all art kind of holds up a mirror to us and
Yes.
reflects back and asks us to think about certain things about literary fiction, what it means to be human. You know, it's just a really good examination of that human experience. How do we
Well,
replicate that if we haven't experienced it, lived it, felt it? Yes, these are all very, very much human experiences that I don't think anything else can replicate.
I don't either, but there's always going to be something that's going to be trying to do something like that. So, but anyway, I'm going to see if I can get Jeffrey to talk about what he heard at the London Book Festival at our conference. But so you've got this book, and you guys, you and your husband, who's also an author, do a writers conference,
Yes,
and you
right,
get a
WriterCon.
yeah. And where do you do that?
It's here in Oklahoma City. It'll be at the Renaissance Waterford Hotel. We held it there last year, and it was excellent. It's a nice
That's
location, but it's big enough to hold us, but small enough that you feel kind of cozy. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And what is the dates for that?
It's always Labor Day weekend, Friday through
Oh,
Sunday. And
Labor Day
then,
week.
yes, and then on Monday we hold master classes. And then actually this year we are adding ReaderCon. So we're going to be really connecting readers with authors, and it's going to be totally free to the public, and we expect it to be a great time.
I hope that flies. Send me the information. I'll share it too.
Sure.
That would be great.
Okay.
But you also did a cruise too.
And we also do a cruise. There'll be another one next year. I have the dates, but don't have them memorized yet.
Yeah, I know.
May. I think it's in May.
That's
Yeah.
a good time because it's not too hot yet, but yet you're ready to get out in the sun. And did you go to the Bahamas, or where'd you go? Mexico? Where'd you go?
So we went down on a Caribbean cruise. We
Oh.
hit Honduras and Costa Maya and Cozumel.
Oh yeah. And in fact, my daughter's going on one of those, just coming right up. Was it with which cruise line?
It's Royal Caribbean.
Yep,
And
that's what she's
we'll
going
be
on.
again. So we leave out of
They're great.
leave out of Galveston.
Yeah.
Leave out of Galveston. We're talking about maybe expanding it out to a different location, but that seems to be a really
it's
easy one
easy
for people to get to.
It's easy. You just drive down the day before.
Exactly.
We stayed at the Hilton right there, and then got on the ship the next day. It was pretty easy. I've gone out of Miami, and it's not so easy.
So we did it was excellent. We had six really, so we have morning sessions, and then we break. So at sea we break, and people can go work on stuff, and then we meet back up in the evening for another session. So get plenty of instructional time, feedback on any work in progress, if you want it. On port days, we try to work around excursions people might have, but we had a pretty good group, like a large group. I mean, a good group of writers too, but like a larger group this year, and it was a little more challenging to work around everyone's excursion.
Is it all genre? Do you talk about all genres and stuff?
Yes, we did. We split into kind of split into two groups so that more similar genres were working together, offering each other good feedback. So like the women's fiction and the romance, and I got to work with those writers, and then we had the thriller and the mystery, sci-fi authors kind of working together as well. We have a fantasy author. So,
oh, great. Did you all have dinner together every night?
Yes, we did. It was great.
You'll have to give me that information too. Maybe
it's so intense. You're right there, you're all together. Someone else cleans your room, someone else cooks your meals. You can just really focus on your writing, and it's fantastic.
That's great.
And you look out the window, and if you're lucky, you see, some fish or dolphins or something. It's wonderful.
That sounds really great. Well, I'm going to open it up, Valerie. Let's include you in the conversation. Do you have any questions or comments to Lara?
Had to get myself unmuted. I didn't
That's
know.
fine.
didn't want noise coming in here when she's.
I know, you're
You
sweet.
can
Thank
probably hear my dog snoring, so
I can't
nothing's going to
hear you.
bother me.
My cat's been all over me because I just got back home, but go ahead.
Well, your next book, is it also set in India, or are you jumping?
No, it isn't for right now. No, this one will be just back here in the States. This is going to be focusing on a completely different set of experiences. So this is about a woman who is coping with pretty significant medical diagnosis for one of her children and what she has to go through to keep him alive, while at the same time going through a divorce and just kind of dealing with the fallout of that. Yeah.
That sounds great. And you had did you tell me you had a title for it?
Well, I have a working title. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
I'm referring to it as "Be the Match," and think of like, striking the match to light the fire kind of idea. But it does talk about one of the themes is gonna be quality of life versus quantity of life, and
Good. Sounds like great.
living each day the fullest, and how we can make a big impact for others around us. But it is also going to touch on organ donation and a lot. My books always have kind of different layers and subplots going to them. So
If you need some help, my cousin on Mother's Day, who's been on the list in Oklahoma City to have
wow,
a transplant, is on. They've changed
excellent.
all the rules. So if you need somebody to talk to, she's going to be having it done. And she has been waiting a long time. She's only got 20% of her lungs. And
Wow.
this is a woman who played 18 holes of golf every day. And, she's just always been athletic and I'm so excited about it. But it's in Oklahoma City. She lives in Enid, but they're going to be they'll probably go live there he said probably for about a year, because they have to do all this prep stuff. That's incredible.
Something else that I am working on the book right now is how much of a struggle that can be, even to get yourself, if you don't live within driving distance of a very large town. It can be a struggle to get the kind of care that you need. You don't get a transplant in a tiny little town. You probably don't even have the specialist that you need. Even in a small, right here, like you're mentioning Oklahoma City, this is where you come to get that kind of care in the entire state.
Yep. And they're going to have to go there and probably close their house for a while but now her husband is my first cousin, and has three retired. He was Air Force, then he taught the pilots, then he worked for Delta. So he's got 3 retirements. So, but still, it's expensive and people have no idea. But if you need somebody to talk to, my cousin is fantastic. He's always been my hero. So, and they just announced it on Mother's Day. It's the best Mother's Day present we all got, because she's been waiting for so long. And I'll probably be going up there at some time. So I'll have to get in touch with you. But
Definitely.
that's a fascinating, and they've just changed all the rules because it wasn't working. I don't know.
How they list people. I know what you're talking about. I was hearing about this on the tail end of one, that how they list people has been undergoing some changes. Yes.
Well, and that's somehow whatever change they did got her finally in. And we were so afraid that, her lungs would deteriorate enough that it'll be too late. So,
Yeah.
but she got to the gym on oxygen, work out.
I don't have the current statistics memorized at the moment, but every day so many people die waiting on the transplant list, and it's rough to hear those numbers. And when you have someone in your family who you're waiting on, and you're wondering, are they going to last long enough before this happens? Yeah,
it's just been tough for them, and it's been tough for everybody, because we're all just like, there's nothing, your hands are tied. So
that's right, because lungs
story.
aren't something that you can donate to someone that you love. Like
No.
you have to be on your way out for that to work. So that's a rough one. Heart's the same way. Someone that I went to college with,
Mm-hmm.
actually passed away, needing a heart transplant.
Oh, it's kidneys. Yes. I'm trying to think what else.
Well, liver, they do partial. So
Liver,
you
they can do partial
can do
now.
partial.
Mhm.
Well, the technology is really, I mean, when I think about the surgery that I had, diabetes was a lifelong disease. And then I go to my doctor and he says, we're going to have to move you to shots. Every time you stress, you spike. I go, I'm not going to do shots. I hate needles. And he goes, well, there is a new procedure. And I never heard of it. And I've told everybody, I put it out there because I go, diabetic people need to know this, that if you have a gastric sleeve surgery, not band or bypass, they take off, slice off, laser off 80% of your stomach and they make it a tube. They're finding out that there's a hormone or something in the bottom of your stomach that triggers, but I haven't been diabetic since I had the surgery.
Mm.
So I don't have to take any diabetic medicine, which has been going up and up and up. And the shots are even more expensive. So as long as I watch how I watch what I eat, as long as I watch everything that I eat and, and keep it, I may not have to ever deal with it in my lifespan, which I'm
Amazing.
66. How many more years am I going to live? But at least I don't have diabetes. I'm just so thankful. Nobody wants it. It's horrible. And you don't have a life because you're constantly checking your blood sugar. Oh, it's just
And my
so
mother-
anyway, fascinating stories. Fascinating. You've got a lot going on and you're still doing your job, but will you be off for the summer, Laura?
I mean, off from work? No.
No, you work all the way
no.
through.
Yeah. Yeah, it's year round. But
So when do you do your writing?
Evenings, weekends, holidays. If I have quiet time at work and everything's caught up, it's totally okay for me to, jot down ideas or work on things. But that's not the case this week. I've had I've been slammed.
Yeah, it's the end of the school year, and I know my son-in-law works for a university, and I know how busy it can be, and it goes pretty fast, and then all of a sudden you're spit out, and then you start in with the next group of whatever
Yeah.
hopefuls or people that are going to summer school or whatever. So, Valerie, do you teach too? Do you teach? You retired, right?
I was a reporter and editor, and then I did a second career, and then I taught at a university. And, that was a marvelous experience. But, when I hit retirement age, I retired because it was time. And I had always, like Laura, I had always had to write around the margins, especially as a reporter and editor. I had no time, but I always found little bits and pieces. And so for the first time, I have time and I can look at doing this big project, the second book in this two books, without so much fear, because back
Yeah.
when I was having jobs that were so demanding, to think of, oh, in 2 years I need to have this other book done. That's why it took me so long to do the first one. So
It took me
Pieces
six years to write my first book.
Bits and
And
pieces is a great way to describe it, though, which can be kind of a frustrating way to come at it. You just get going and you're feeling
sidetrack.
good and excited about it, and you're turning out pages, and then suddenly something puts the brakes on. And I don't know. I was just looking at my
think it's-
manuscript today and getting frustrated because I really want to be
I
working on
think
it.
that's just life in general because I get so excited about working on a painting and then, it's Mother's Day. The kids want me to come. I go up there. I actually ended up working on 2 paintings up at her house. So it ended up being pretty good. I hate to put down something when I'm right in that moment of
Yes.
creativity. It's frustrating for it, but there's nothing going to stop a writer. As many authors as I've interviewed, I know that nothing stops a writer from telling their story because you're
It's
driven.
true. I think I got, so I was never able to simply stay home and work remotely during the pandemic, but so many other people were. Other people were kind of shut down and things were quiet that I had a little bit of time, about a year, where I actually felt very productive, was able to churn out a lot of pages because I had more time to focus on that.
I think I got more work done during COVID than any time in my life because I was stuck here, and still kind of am. So I get focused on one thing and I try to get, but if you can do it all without any help, you can get things done. But when you start having to reach out for research and different things, and it slows everything down. So, any advice for young budding authors who've never written a book? Come to your conference, first of all. That sounds like be a wonderful thing. Do you have to have any writing done to come, or
No,
no?
not at all. And we have several tracks running at all times. So we have writing craft for people who are just getting started. We have things more like editing, what to do once you finish that first draft, how to polish it, how to breathe life into it for people who are at that point. We have agents who come in and talk about the publishing world, the business side of things. We have marketers come in, people talking about what to do, now that you've published, how do you find your readers and get people to read it? So we've got all of those running alongside each other so that no matter where you're at, there's something that will help you.
Well, this year I have noticed that the books that have come in I haven't gotten as many this year. Of the 3 years of COVID, this is the least amount, but the best books. I mean, I've already got almost half my books picked
Wow.
for 2024 because every book that's coming in is incredible. I've already told Alice Hoffman, her new book, The Invisible Hour. Oh my gosh. It's just fantastic. And I'm just getting so many. And, our book of the month, everybody won the Pulitzer.
Oh, I
So
know.
everybody's reading it and they go, oh, this book is so, really gets to you. But, she's always been a favorite of mine, always been a favorite. But there's some really great books coming out this year. And I'm having more publishers sending me books this year for the first time ever, which is usually it's the author. But I tell everybody out there, if you want your book to be considered for my book club, you've got to send me a copy. Go to Authors Join here on the website, www.thepulpitqueens.com, because that's how I've read these women's books, because they're amazing. I mean, I just cannot believe, these stories. Incredible. And I am looking so forward to the next book. So, strike a match,
Be the match.
be the match. Yeah, I like it. I like the whole
We'll
concept.
see.
Yeah,
We'll see. You got to finish. You got to finish the first draft, and then you need something to call it. But the working title isn't always the ending title. So
no, I was trying to remember what they said. To Kill a Mockingbird was the first. That wasn't the title of the book that she sent in, and it was. Oh, I know. It was Go Set a Watchman, which was
okay.
finally published. It was Go Set a Watchman, which was from the Bible, which I actually love. And it kind of fits that time. But yet then again, To Kill a Mockingbird, there's something about, again, another great title. But and then you'll be coming up, Val. I can't remember. Do you remember what month you are being featured?
I'm in the middle of July. So
Yep, I've got them sitting right in front of me, but I don't have them labeled which month. I've got a long vertical stand that I've got them just stacked from top to bottom, so I can just pull them out whenever I need them. But we'll have fun. And what we do is every Tuesday, the day you're featured, you can blog. So you can blog as much as you want. You just have to let me know when they're up so I can post them, because I have to approve them. And the only reason why I do that is because authors that are not pulpwood queens, or I haven't read their book, post on there if I don't put up those parameters. And that's not fair to all of you who are our featured authors. So, and I do read our featured authors books first. So if you're a member of our book club, that I have one stack for readers and I check. And then I have another stack for just random books that are sent me, but they've been really good this year. And so, this summer, have you got any trips planned or anything, Laura, or research or anything you're going to be doing?
Well, let me think. I have a conference I'm speaking at in June.
Hmm.
I have a writing retreat in July where we'll be working with authors for, it's a 5-day retreat. Yep, that's what I know about so far, for summer.
Well, good. Well, good.
Is it the
And
historical fiction conference that you're speaking at in June?
hi, James.
Hello.
Hey, no, it's called Between the Pages. It's a writing
I've
conference.
heard that.
Yeah, it's a
Where-
writing conference in Springfield, Missouri.
Yes, I've heard of it. I don't know who puts it on. That's the people that put it on?
Ozark, it's the Ozark writers, and I think they partner with another group. I think there's a couple groups that partner to put it together.
Cool. That's
So-
very,
What about your conference and your cruise?
yeah,
Do
go ahead.
do you have straight up historical fiction writers and groups?
So I think we would benefit anyone. I'm trying to think if we had it. It depends on who comes, but we absolutely work with everyone. So if you had
Okay.
more of like a literary historical fiction, we'd put you in with the more literary folk. And if it was more of a historical thriller, we'd kind of shift you over to the little bit faster paced group.
Okay.
But we work around, we've even had people bring memoir. We don't get a whole lot of nonfiction, but we've had people bring some memoir. And
Yep.
you get the benefit of, you've got that nice group of people that's focused on helping you succeed. And everyone's always very positive and generous. And
And it's a
suggestions that
cruise and it's
always meet
Royal
out of
Caribbean.
love.
And
Yep.
they've got a library on their boat because I
Yeah.
donated.
Sounds wonderful.
And then the conference, let me think, the tentative schedule is up. There may be someone speaking on historical fiction. I would need to double check. I know we've had someone speak on historical fiction in the past at that conference, but
You know who's having one on historical fiction? I think Jess Montgomery. You might, who did she won the book of the year a couple of years back, 2020. I think she's doing a conference, and I think it was historical fiction. I'll look and see, James, and send you that way. But anybody that has a conference that they're going to, Val's real good about sending it to me so I can post it. And anything you want me to share that is book related, mostly your books. But if they're conferences, I'll be glad to share them because I always try to share as much as I can on all the other ones that I love to go to, like the Pat Conroy ones and things. So anyway,
feel free to reach out to me, James. Really, we get a wide variety of manuscripts that come through, and we tailor each of our retreat sessions to best support.
Okay. Is your website
Yes,
readily?
WriterCon.
What is it?
WriterCon.com.
Okay.
and you can just message her too
Or you
on
can just message me.
yeah,
Sure.
message her and she can send you the information. I will, when I post this on the, if you'll send that to me in an email, I'll put it in the blog post tomorrow morning. So
Okay.
it'll all be in there too. So when people watch it, if they want to go to your conference or your cruise, that they can do that. I mean, we had 35, 36 people go on our cruise and we had 6 authors. It was fab. It was really, we had a great time, and it was Royal
yeah.
Caribbean. And we went out of Galveston, which I really like because you can just drive down there and leave your car parked and go. And yeah, that would be kind of fun because I'm not a beachy person. I like the cruise for the relaxation, but I'd much rather go to a writer's conference on a cruise ship than a show.
Yes.
So,
Well, it was good timing. I'm glad I got to go. I rested a lot on it. I was still recovering from the health stuff, but yeah, it was perfect timing because I got to get away for a week and
it's all inclusive. That's the wonderful
yeah.
thing about things. It's really great. So get me the information. I'll be glad to share it. And our information, I did put up on our website what we're going to be doing on the 3 days of Girlfriend Weekend, just tentative, and I'm working on the
Okay.
program now. But I've got to get your photos, James, and as because he's paid to come, and Janet Oakley, I haven't gotten hers. Sarah Stommy, she's working on her house. Everybody is so busy right now that it's hard. You know, it's like herding cats. That's what I call it. I herd cats, trying to get all the authors lined, but they rally and they come forth, and it's beautiful. But the photo page is up, and when I get everybody up on there, I'll be putting it up on the website, and I'm working on the program now, and I'm fingers crossed we're going to have some pretty amazing people coming. So anyway, thank you all for coming, and I'm trying to think of anything else anybody wants to share before we go tonight.
Well, I just have You All Beats. My first book took 25 years.
You have what? Say that again.
25 years to write Push Not the River and teach at the same time.
Oh my gosh. Hey, James, you've got to tell them who was at your school. He sent me, I've been watching the 3rd season of Bridgerton, and I loved it even more than the other 2 seasons. And you've got to tell who went to your school where you taught. It's just so funny. Do you guys know Shondaland?
Yeah, Shonda Rhimes.
Oh,
Yeah, she
wow.
went to our high school. She's a sort of a hero at our heroine at our high school.
She's a hero to me because I think what she's rewriting history.
Yeah.
Which when people can see it, it's funny. The more they see it, the more they'll accept what she's doing. And what she's doing is pretty amazing. It's not fact. It's fictional. Just like I just watched a documentary done on Cleopatra. It was fascinating. It was highly entertaining, but I'm telling you, it's just like Jeffrey Matthews writing his book about Abraham Lincoln and Sherlock Holmes. I'm finding that people's imaginations they're just brilliant coming up with these ideas. But I'm a big fan of Shonda Rhimes, and I did a painting where I have Queen Charlotte in the center of it, and I did it from memory. My daughter goes, "Mom, how'd you do that?" I go, "I don't know. I just fell in love with both her character and Lady Danbury." But I really, this is no matter whether I'm reading a book, I'm watching a film, or listening to a song, or watching a play, I totally invest in it. You know, I'm just there, and I'm out of my own head for a while, and it was wonderful. So, wow, 25 years. That's when I started the book club. Yep. Now there's a strange name trying to get into our book club meeting. I'm not letting him in. Remember what happened last time?
I missed it, but I heard.
Did you
There's
get
a guy trying to get him right now. I have no idea who he is. I can't let him in because we did that once and it was a catastrophe. Oh
No, we're winding down anyway. So let's
Yes, well,
not
it's
end on that note.
So it's thank you. Everybody, you need to pass the word that everybody needs to get these 2 books. And I'm telling you, when I go to India, I'm going to meet with a publishing house, and I'm going to be meeting with a production company. I'm going to
Awesome.
do what I can to see what I can do to get some of these books in India, and these books made into film in India, because they need to be done. They need all my books, I think, would make wonderful. And I'm really frustrated right now because I've got 3 books that I have picked for this coming year that I'm not announcing until January. and they're already being picked by Oprah and Reese. I'm going,
Oh, wow.
they're going to thank that she picked them first, but I picked this one before Oprah. I'm going to tell you, Demon Copperhead, I got a long time ago. But anyway, I'm really excited about the books coming up and about all of you guys' new books, and keep them coming to me. And we'll see you next week. If y'all, we're going to have Rita Quillen, Rita Sims Quillen is protege endorsed by the poet of Appalachian poets, Ron Rash, who's one of my favorite authors of all time. And she's a musician and she's fabulous. And her book is Some Note You Hold. It's fantastic. And she's going to be bringing her guitar too. So she'll be that, but that's next week. So, and then on down the line, we're going to have Ann Hood and Orchid Blooming and just a bunch of really great people. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Laura. 2 weeks in a row.
Thank you. Thank you. It's
dear.
great. Loved it.
I'll be back with you, but I'll find the website and stuff and try to put it in the blog tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
And when I do the post on the Pulpit Queen channel, thank you, everybody. Share the word. Go to thepulpitqueens.com to join our book club. Readers is free. Authors, go to the author join here page. You get featured in the newsletter. There's lots of benefits to joining. And I read your books first. Send me your copies. That's it. Infomercial's done. You guys have a wonderful night. I've got cats on 3 sides of me wanting mom to pet them. So have a good night with your sleeping pup. And bye, Valerie. Bye.
All right.
Bye. We'll see
Bye-bye.
you next time,
Nice to see you.
James.
I see you.
Bye-bye. Thanks for coming. Bye.
Bye-bye.